Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be doing another one of my college assignments for my cheese making and fermentation class, which is how to make a ginger beer. So we're going to start today by making the ginger bug, and then I will make the videos on how to make the ginger beer. So my cheese making fermentation class that I'm in is almost over. Tomorrow is going to be the last in-person class, which means that we're doing like a big fun day where my professor is bringing in this smorgasbord of a whole bunch of fancy cheeses, and some of them are going to be moldy ones. I've never been brave enough to try moldy cheese, but I guess tomorrow is the day that I finally do that. I might take some videos, I might not. It all depends. I don't really like filming in front of people, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be interesting enough for me to want to do that. So today we're making the ginger beer, which is similar to kombucha in the fact that it has a minimal amount of alcohol content, but because it's 0.5%, it's considered non-alcoholic. So that is that. It's also a very similar process to root beer. So traditional root beer was made with the sassafras root, and it's basically the exact same thing. So you take the root, you make a starter, which in our case is going to be called a ginger bug. And that is basically just the ginger root with some water and sugar. And we're going to leave that out on my countertop at about room temperature for a couple of days until it gets all bubbly and fizzy. And that's when we know that the starter is ready. And then when we make the actual drink itself, we're going to add the starter to it, and that is what's going to jumpstart the fermentation process. So it's very important to note that we do all of this in plastic containers and not glass, because we learned in class that fermented beverages such as kombucha and ginger beer, they have a tendency to explode. So we will be doing this in plastic and not glass so that we don't have a whole bunch of broken glass all over the kitchen. All right, well, I am ready to get started. We're going to start by adding a 1/4 cup of water to our plastic container. And this is where we're going to make the ginger bug, and this is what's going to sit on the counter for a couple of days and get all nice and bubbly. Here is the ginger root that my teacher gave us in class. So this should have like a little bit of yeast on the outside of the root itself, which will help it ferment. However, we're also going to be adding in a small pinch of this active dry yeast, and that's just going to jumpstart the process because there should be yeast on there, but I've also had that in the refrigerator, so it's probably still waking up. And so we're going to use some of this, and I'm just going to grate this into our thing, but I'm not going to use all of it because I'm still going to want to use some for the actual ginger beer itself. Okay, so we've grated our ginger, and now I'm just putting it into our little container here. All right, so we've added in our little bit of grated ginger, and then I'm going to add in my pinch of yeast and my tablespoon of sugar. All right, there is a tablespoon of sugar, and we added in the yeast. So now I'm just going to stir it up, and then we're just going to leave it on the counter. Looks tasty, doesn't it? Might not look super appetizing, but it smells so good. I absolutely love the smell of ginger. Well, unfortunately, life happens sometimes and you totally forget that you were making a ginger beer and you totally left it on your counter for too long and you totally killed it and you totally had to start over. So that's kind of what I did. 2 days ago, I checked on it. It was like 9 p.m. I had just gotten off of work, and it was like super bubbly, super fizzy, and I was like, ooh, this is like the time I'm supposed to like make it so that it actually works. But, you know, I thought, well, I'll just leave it till tomorrow, and then I'll get to it after work the next day. So yesterday, I checked on it, and it was not bubbling anymore. So I kind of just threw some sugar in there, hoping that any yeast would eat that up and it would stay fizzy by the time I got off of work. and that didn't really happen. Then this morning I was like, well, I really want to make this afternoon because it's Sunday now. So it's like, oh, this would be such a fun thing to do Sunday afternoon. Well, yeah, this morning I was like, yeah, this is not looking super great. So I threw in some more sugar and I threw in another pinch of yeast. And I don't know. I think we're just gonna have to roll with it and deal with it and I guess kind of see what happens. So I'm not sure if this is gonna work anymore. I think it will, but I guess we'll see. So this is the current state of the ginger bug. I don't see any bubbles. Of course, I only added the yeast kind of recently and just kind of stirred it up. And hopefully by the time I'm done making the ginger water, we'll see some bubbles and it'll be fine. But I guess this is the fun part about doing something for the first time. You just gotta go with it and see what happens. This is the ginger water that I am mixing up here. Okay, so I have added in some honey as a sweetener. This is honey that I got from my bees. And then here is another quart of water. So in total, we have 2 quarts of water. Then we have some extra, the rest of the ginger went in here, and we put in the honey. So we mixed all that together. That has all been boiled, and that's cooled down to room temperature now. And then that is also room temperature. So next, what we're doing is we are gonna strain all the ginger from here into a plastic container. So I'm cleaning this old milk jug out, and that's going to be our plastic container. Because other than that, all I have is glass mason jars, but we don't want to use any glass. Alright, so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to pour as much of that through this as possible until I get very few bits of ginger into one of the containers, and then from there I'm going to pour that into our plastic container. And then we are going to add an extra quart of water to that. And then from there, we're going to add in our ginger bug starter, which is going to do the whole fermentation process. All right, that actually works surprisingly well. So now here is our ginger water, and this is fully sweetened with honey. And so now I'm just going to taste it and make sure it's good. And try a spoonful of the ginger water, just to make sure it tastes good. That actually has a very nice flavor to it. All right, so slight change of plans. By the time I finished getting everything, I only got like maybe a cup and a half of the ginger water, so I'm actually gonna add only about a cup and a half of regular water to that, and then I'll just add less ginger bugs. So we'll just make a little bit less of it. Otherwise, it's gonna be very watered down. All right, I just added in the water, and then I'm just gonna add in the starter. So here is our ginger bug starter, and unfortunately I haven't seen this bubble or fizz in a while. It was doing it a little bit this afternoon, and I was expecting it to continue doing that. However, I don't know. So I guess at this point, it's kind of already a failed experiment, but never hurts to go for it anyways. So we're gonna strain all the ginger chunks out of here, and then I'm just gonna pour this stuff straight in there. And I guess we'll see what happens. And there it is. Now we got it all nice and well mixed in there. So according to our instructions, this should be ready within either a day or a couple of days. It all depends on our starter. Now, since our starter, I believe, is on the weaker side, especially because I didn't really see any bubbles when I put it in there, it might not ferment at all. So this might be something that I have to revisit in a couple weeks, but for now, that is what we're working with. I woke up this morning and I checked on the ginger beer, and to my delightful surprise, the entire container was completely inflated with the CO2 bubbles. So it did ferment, and then I simply stuck it in the fridge while I waited to get off of work. All right, guys, it is the next day, and it fermented. it fermented. It is extremely bubbly. I had to put it in my fridge this morning because I was worried that my plastic container was going to explode. Look at all those bubbles. Okay, I wanted to do this morning, which is screw off the top and listen to all the air rush out, but I figured I'd wait to do it on camera. Here it is. Mix it up a little bit. Oh, it's fizzing. All right, we ready for this? That was anticlimactic. I figured it would make more of a sound than that. Smells interesting. All right, I was cold, so I put on a sweatshirt. I'm gonna grab a cup. All right, move the bread out of the way. All right, we got a cup. We got our ginger beer that has been fermenting overnight, and I stuck it in the fridge this morning. So that would have slowed down the fermentation, but it still will ferment in the fridge. I'm kind of scared. Okay, there it is. I wonder if it's gonna be like super fizzy. Okay, here it goes. And it's not bad, but yeah, it's fizzy. Just has an interesting taste to it, but it's not bad. I would say it's good. It was a whole very interesting process to make. Huh. Well, I would consider that a success. Highly recommend you try this out. It was a very fun process. Taught me a lot about how to ferment things. And yeah, so look at that. Maybe next I'll have to try kombucha. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video today on following along on me making this ginger beer. It ended up turning out in the end, so praise God for that.